Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, Threads and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. We have the power.
You are full of beans.
I'm full of something.
Yeah, you've just finished work. I wasn't expecting this much energy straight out of the gate.
I've been on such high energy this whole week that it's going to be impossible for me to calm down. So you've got that to look forward to tonight, just buzzing around.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
But also I am very excited because today we're talking about Masters of the Universe. One of my all-time childhood favourites. See, I'm so excited I can't get my words out. I hope that's not a common theme throughout the episode.
Me too.
It will take me 3 weeks to edit. Yeah, love this movie. Obviously, big old flop. That's why it's a part of this season. It's another movie from 1987.
Is it?
Yeah, which I want to say, I haven't checked the spreadsheet, but I think it's our most covered year at this point.
Yeah, it seems to come up a lot. What else have we done from 87 then?
Get to the chopper.
Predator. Near Dark?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's one more.
One more?
Yeah.
Give me a clue.
1, 2, ready to go.
Oh.
For you.
Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors. Yeah. So it's one of our most, if not the most year that we've covered on a pod. Also looking on Letterboxd, when you can sort by year.
Yep.
And then also I sort by my highest rated as well after that.
You are such a, I'm a nerd, but you're like a maths nerd. You're a spreadsheet nerd.
Yeah, you knew this.
I know. It's not a complaint. I'm just pointing it out. It does amaze me still.
But I think in general, it's just one of my favourite years as well. Just looking at the lineup, we've got Robot Cop.
Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys was next on my list. Well done. Yeah. What else? Got another one on there? Can you name another one?
Of your favourite movies?
Yeah.
From 87?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We spoke about the director last week.
I was going to say it's got to be a John Carpenter, but was Big Trouble 87 or was that 86?
86, I think that was.
So what was 87? Prince of Darkness?
Yep.
Right.
Prince of Darkness. Also, we've got Pinhead. Got the first Hellraiser.
Of course, yeah.
Untouchables.
Yeah.
Which is very good. Revisited that recently when we covered Carrie.
It is. It's a really, really good film, but it's dad cinema to me. Yeah. So I'm less interested.
Yeah, it is. Spaceballs.
Okay, yep. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too.
My childhood was more about Blazing Saddles than Spaceballs, if I'm honest.
When they fart around the campfire?
Yeah, my dad thought that was hilarious. He laughed more than I did, and I was a child when we watched it.
It is hilarious though. What better team up is there?
It's, universal humour, I suppose.
Evil Dead 2?
Yep, excellent.
Ling ling.
I don't really care.
Beverly Hills Cop 2. Inner Space.
Inner Space, okay. Yeah, that was Joe Dante, right?
Yes.
It's funny because I feel like I watched that a lot when I was a kid, but these days it's one of the Dante films that I'm less versed in
Okay. It's probably my favourite Dante movie.
because of Martin Short. Yes.
Yeah. The Running Man.
Okay. Is that getting a remake?
Yeah, I believe it's shooting or has wrapped filming in the UK, directed by Edgar Wright.
Oh.
So I imagine that'll be out at the end of this year, if not early next year.
Okay. Who's the running man?
Guess. Who's flavour of the month at the moment? Who's in everything?
Glenn Powell?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No.
I'm so sick of his face.
I like him, but a part of me is like, really? I don't know. With Now on I?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Classic.
Classic. The Gate.
I love The Gate.
Yeah.
I love The Gate so much.
I know you do. One more movie that I saw when I was very young, and it took me forever to hunt it down, but 3 O'Clock High.
Is that the one that you made me watch, where you to find out what it was, you had to Google boy
Man
dries underwear in microwave?
Yes.
Was it that one?
Yes.
See, I remember everything you tell me, for better or worse.
Oh no. Yeah. But but just looking at that list, I'm like, I was thinking, we do our end of year shows and we do top 5.
Oh, no, 87 would have been a really hard call.
That would have been really difficult for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, strong year.
Strong year. And there's an anomaly.
Disagree. Disagree. I think Masters is an absolute classic.
Look, I love it. You know I do. We had this conversation just before recording. For some reason, I was so desperate to own this, I must have bought the Region 1 like 25 years ago. But it's not good.
I will get into this.
Okay.
But I think it's a bizarre mixture of brilliant and really shit.
Yeah.
And it's something odd about it. I don't think there's anything quite like it. I think there's a lot of things you could compare it to, and we'll probably get into that. But yeah, probably, like, objectively speaking, not the greatest movie.
No.
But nevertheless, it's one that I grew up with and I love. Having said that, I've never actually owned it myself on any format.
Nuts.
My nan owned it on VHS when I was a kid and watched it with her quite a lot. But during the DVD era, I never had it. I think I probably wasn't prepared to pay out for a Region 1.
I was going to say, like, maybe it was difficult to get hold of for a while.
Yeah. Well, I tended to just sort of go to Blockbusters, or we had a local one called Golden Disc where you just get them for like £3.
Oh,
and it was,
sift through the bins.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, so I guess I never found it in one of these bargain bins and just wasn't prepared to pay kind of full whack for it. But now I have, because...
But now you're a working man and you spend way more than you should have done.
Yeah. I think I spent 30 English pounds on a brand new 88 films release of it, which came out like a couple of weeks ago.
It was well timed, yeah.
Yeah, but it's gorgeous. It's a lovely release. Just like a nice rigid card case with the Blu-ray and a nice little booklet with pictures of Dolph Lundgren without any pants on and a cape. Yeah, it's great. I really love it. And it was a few quid, and sometimes we get these special edition ones. I thought, it is a movie I love. It's one from my childhood, and it's very close to me, like close to my heart. And I thought, yeah, I'll treat myself. I'm very glad that I got it. It's going to look very nice on the shelf, I think.
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it aligns as well. It's not like it's slightly wider, obviously, but it doesn't
poke. It's a girthy release.
It's the ones that poke out. Like my fucking Casino Royale there. Look at the state of that.
Do you even like Casino Royale?
Yeah, it's the only Bond film I do like.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, I do like Skyfall. I think it's well made, but I would rarely watch it. Casino Royale, I just think it's absolutely brilliant.
Which was the one you had 2 copies of?
It's Quantum of Solace.
And you don't like that one?
No.
Why? Why do you own 2 of a film you don't like?
I accidentally bought 2 copies. I think it was a musicmagpie.com and they were £1, I think. And I accidentally must have just pressed quantity times 2. You would think they'd go, who's buying 2 copies? Oh, it's Dan again, is it?
The same person who keeps ordering the incorrect Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. So, Masters of the Universe, possibly one of the first movies based on a toy range?
Yeah, I guess so. Which is crazy because now Mattel are seriously all about the toy movies, aren't they?
Yeah, obviously Barbie was a huge success for Mattel. And I didn't know that they were run by Will Ferrell until that movie.
Yeah. That was canon.
Very good. Obviously a Canon Films classic. And one of the movies that actually bankrupted the company, this one.
Did it?
Yeah.
Why? Why could that be?
Between this and Superman 4, I think was what ended that company pretty much.
Well, they were still around.
Yeah, there was probably some lag. There were probably things that they were working on that maybe were made or were nearly finished, and then someone else bought the rights, and then it took a while, and lawyers and all of that stuff. So.
But there was like new Canon films into the 90s and stuff, though. They didn't fully go away.
No, I don't quite understand what happened there, but I do know that between this and Superman 4, because I think they bought the rights to Superman 4.
Mm-hmm.
To the Superman movies and produced 4.
They had the rights to Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
And they were told they had to make a Spider-Man movie before 1990 or the rights would expire. And I'm still waiting.
There's somewhere in the universe that Canon Films version of Spider-Man exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was meant to be directed by James Cameron, if I remember correctly.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it obviously would have been between, I guess, where was James Cameron in the late 80s? He was in California, presumably. He wasn't in a submarine at that point.
I was just going to say, like, if he made it now, it would be some sort of aquatic Spider-Man.
Yeah. Aquaman.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No.
Cut that out. Yeah, bizarre, but would have been interested to see it, definitely. And I think from what I heard, they had begun building sets for the Spider-Man movie.
Okay.
And when they kind of ran out of money, they decided to repurpose a lot of those sets, I believe, into the movie Cyborg, the Van Damme classic.
Yeah, I read that as well. And some of the sets from this, I think.
Oh, okay. I mean, it would make sense. Some of the sets in this film are remarkable. I'll say I love some of it. And then some of it's terrible.
Yeah, some of it is moving on. The throne room's pretty cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's great.
Apparently that was like the biggest set that existed in Hollywood in like over 40 years, I believe, because they knocked through 2 sound stages.
And different levels. And you just look at it and all the kind of the marble and stuff. And it blows your mind. Why did they run out of money? I can't imagine.
On the one set that looks good.
Yeah.
I do like how much thought went into that, though, because I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, but the fact that they sort of said they wanted the throne room to sort of represent good and evil because it belongs to whoever's in power, and power can be both good and evil.
Yeah.
Depends whose hands it in. I don't know. I respect the thought patterns, and they clearly kind of cared about what they were making. It just didn't all translate to the screen.
Which is one of the reasons why it's such a fascinating movie to talk about. And one of the reasons why I wanted to include it in this lineup. This is the first movie that I've chosen for this season. Next week it's back to you. We'll find out what that is. But yeah, just before we get on to the kind of the look of it, would you have seen this in the late 80s when it came out? Yeah.
It wasn't a cinema job.
No.
It was a VHS job. But I was watching this from pretty young.
Me too. I want to say that it was perhaps a premiere on the television
maybe.
At Christmas. I've got quite a vivid memory of it, like an image of myself playing with do you remember those little TV things that were like a sort of a computer game, and you had little BBs and you would fire them out at like a gun range type thing?
No.
Okay. I wonder if I could Google that and figure out what that was, but for some reason I remember myself playing with one of those, and this was on in the background, and it just sort of captured my attention. But having said that, I think I was pretty big into the Masters of the Universe cartoon and toys when I was a kid.
Okay.
I think it began slightly before my time, but the reruns were just on forever. So I'm pretty sure I was big into that. Possibly the first kind of Saturday morning cartoon thing that I would have been into. It was definitely before Turtles were a thing.
So what came first? Because there's been there's been a movie, obviously, comics, a toy line, a cartoon. What was it? Was it the toy line that came first then?
Yeah, it was the toy line that came first. And I think what happened was they came up with an idea for these toys.
Somebody in a boardroom somewhere was just like, we need this male action figure that's only wearing underwear and has a blonde bob.
Yeah.
But is super ripped.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that some of the inspiration was from Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah,
if I
that makes
remember
sense.
rightly. But because it was for children and because they wanted to sell toys to kids, they didn't want to replicate the level of violence that is in Conan. I mean, Arnold punches a horse in that movie. You can't, He-Man can't be doing that.
No. Friend to the animals.
Yeah. Friend to Gwildor.
Gwildor.
Yeah, the toys were first, and I believe they began to produce like a mini comic that they included with some of the toys.
Okay.
And that, I guess, shot into regular sized comics, and then the cartoons, I believe, came along shortly after, and it all kind of tied in together. Obviously, one thing markets the other, so it's pretty genius, and it was huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely enormous for a while. I remember having some books and certainly some of the toys. I definitely watched the She-Ra spin-off as well when I was a kid.
I loved She-Ra.
Me
She was
too.
supposed to be in the movie.
Right.
But they didn't have the budget for a
Right.
lady.
Right. Okay. They had the budget for a first feature credit of Courtney Cox, though.
Yes. I'm guessing she wasn't paid a tremendous amount of money.
I'm guessing not.
Straight off the back of that appearance in the Bruce Springsteen music video.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was big business for a couple of years. And I think one of the reasons that possibly Masters of the Universe, the movie, didn't do very well is that the level of interest in the toys and the cartoons had perhaps started to die off at that point.
Right.
Maybe in the the UK, I think it was probably still pretty strong. We were still getting a lot of reruns of the cartoons and stuff, and I certainly would have been watching it at that time. But perhaps by 87, it had already peaked. So that could be part of the reason why it didn't do very well at the box office.
So you don't think it's that it's not very good?
I think that's part of it.
Right.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think it's interesting to think about. I think there are many parts to it.
So how much did it make? Because it was, what, 22 million budget?
Yeah.
I don't think it was intended to be 22 million budget. I think it ran over.
Right. Okay. The reports I saw was 22 million, but I didn't do much research other than going, thanks Google for that 22 million result and writing it down. Yeah, so it made a grand total gross profit of negative £5 million.
Oh,
yeah, it lost 5 million quid. It grossed 17 million, which I think is really weird. Like it's
not that weird considering we've already talked about its competition that year.
That's true. Yeah, of course.
There was a lot of other stuff to go and see.
Yeah, I suppose as well, like last week we spoke about The Thing, which didn't do very well, and perhaps some of that was because of the huge success of E.T. and they were released around the same time.
That's the only alien movie anybody was interested in that year.
Yeah, and everyone was going to see With Now and I when Masters of the Universe was out.
Naturally, yeah. Because the audience has such a massive crossover.
Yeah, everyone loves Camberwell carrots, don't they?
They love He-Man and also Richard E. Grant.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Richard E. Grant?
I love Richard E. Grant. He's making some interesting choices of late.
Yeah.
I'm fully behind it.
He's great. I think perhaps some of the other parts of it being a flop are, well, the fact that Mattel and Canon agreed to go 50-50 on the budget.
Okay.
And I believe Canon just ran out of money and couldn't do any more. They couldn't market it. I think it stayed in cinemas for like a week or two, but like early screenings.
Really?
I think so. So it just didn't have the might behind it of a Warner Brothers or whoever was producing movies, or Buena Vista or whatever it was in the 80s. It didn't have that backing.
Right.
So I think had it had a bigger marketing push, it probably would have done better. It may not have smashed it, but 17 million does feel low for a movie like this that was based on a really popular toy line. It does feel bizarre, and there are many reasons why it definitely flopped. I don't think I saw this at cinema. I would have been too young It definitely was on a TV, I think. But
what was
had
the
I been,
certificate?
it was PG.
PG,
It's a
okay.
PG. It's a strong PG.
I was going to say, yeah.
There's blood in it.
I think maybe that's one of the contributing factors as well. Maybe there was some confusion over who it was suitable for.
Yeah.
Because to me, this sort of sits neatly in a very, very niche category alongside films like Flash Gordon.
Mm.
And I don't think that's for children necessarily. So I don't know. Maybe that was part of it as well.
Yeah, possibly. There were a couple of movies in the 80s that are kind of, you would think if you just look at the poster, it's kind of a kid's film, but they're much darker when you watch them. Dark Crystal is an example that I'm thinking of, which has something in common with this movie.
Does it?
Yeah. The writer, David Odell, who wrote this movie, also wrote The Dark Crystal.
Did he?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I love The Dark Crystal so much.
I know you do, which is what made me so interested when I found that out. I thought I would mention that. I'm glad that I found a point to mention it naturally. Also Supergirl.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was rubbish. But
yeah.
I did enjoy that when I was a kid, but looking back on it now, I think it's kind of unwatchable now I think about it.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. What was the actress called? Was it Helen Slater?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I know why you liked it then.
I did watch it a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So yeah, no money for marketing. Probably a bit too late. Dolph Lundgren he was not really a thing back then. He had a bizarre beginning to his career.
So I don't know a huge amount about him outside of
Universal Soldier.
Right, yeah.
Sergeant Andrew Scott.
Okay.
He threw grenades.
He was a Punisher.
He was a Punisher, yeah.
One of many.
89, was that?
Yes.
I keep meaning to revisit that, you know. I remember my uncle having it on VHS, but I haven't seen it since probably 1992.
I haven't seen it in a while. It's not great.
I don't really remember it enough. I mean, I think someone got like a spade in a chest or something, if that's right.
That sounds vaguely familiar, yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of Commando.
Which also shares an actor with this movie.
Ooh, okay, you're testing me.
I am.
Can I get a clue?
Female.
Chelsea Fields.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah, there were two. There are a couple of females.
You know it's not Corny Cox.
I know. Yeah, or Christina Pickles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who played Monica's mom in Friends.
Yeah.
How strange.
Yeah, bizarre.
I knew I recognised her when we were watching it, but I couldn't place her for a while.
I didn't put that together at all. It was only when I was doing my homework that I saw that. Yeah, Dolph Lundgren, I mean, he was nobody's favourite actor in 1987.
No.
He had a really weird start to his career. It's not something that he set out to do, to become an actor. He's an intellectual. He was studying engineering, MIT, super smart guy. He was a karate, what do they call him? Champion.
I don't know.
He did karate at people. And he was a bodyguard, and he was like really super buff. So he got into the bodyguard business.
Okay.
Became a bodyguard of Grace Jones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they became an item.
Okay.
And then his first credit was in A View to a Kill, which Grace Jones was in. So, I wonder how he got that role. And then I guess it's off to the races after that. It would have been Rocky IV after A View to a Kill.
Oh, yeah, of course.
In, I want to say 85, Rocky IV is.
You would know that way better than me.
Well, it's the one where Stallone punches communism. If you can change, I can change, we can all change, He solved it. He solved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been View to a Kill, Rocky IV. Who do we get for He-Man? It's Ivan Drago. Clearly, who else?
Yeah, his English still wasn't very good at that point, though, was it?
No, and you could never tell, could you?
Well, apparently when he was cast, they'd planned from day one to have a different actor dub his lines.
Right.
But apparently Dolph Lundgren had it written into his script that he was allowed like 3 chances to dub his own lines. So that's why some of it's a little bit shonky. I think from what I can gather anyway, a lot of it is sort of from on the day and the other parts are dubbed, which is why it seems a little bit strange at times.
Right, okay. It does make sense. I mean, Dolph Lundgren is not the most interesting actor in this film, which is another reason why probably it didn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's called Masters of the Universe. The star of the show is He-Man, but as it turned out, the star of the show was Gwildor. Skeletor. Frank Langella was absolutely brilliant.
I hate Gwildor.
I love Gwildor. I think he's great.
I think he's grotesque. I think he's absolutely just disgusting. I know those are strong words. Those are fighting words. But I said this to you the other day. I feel like I remembered hearing somewhere, because obviously in the cartoon it was Orko, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I remembered reading or hearing somewhere that they replaced Orko with Gwildor, like this new character, because the budget didn't extend to effects that would make Orko believable. And I looked into it and that was right.
Yeah, you are right, because you said that to me and I was like, I'm not sure about that.
Well, you took the more cynical perspective, which was they just wanted a fresh character to make toys of.
But that's also
which was also right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was one of only 3 toys they made off the back of the movie.
Well, they had, I think the original intention, Mattel was like, put all of our characters in the movie. We want to sell all of these toys. Budget things, you can't do all of those. CGI is not a thing yet.
No. Clearly.
Yeah. So what they did is they had they found a compromise. They put the main characters in the film, and then they also invented some new characters. And they went to Mattel and went, we can do some of the main characters and get some of your main characters in here, but why don't we invent some new characters and you can sell some more toys? To which Mattel went, yes, please, give us some money. Gwildor was one of those characters that they created. Karg. Karg, is it Karg with the big hair?
Looks like Gwen Shamblin.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll try and do a side-by-side on Instagram because it really made me laugh.
Yeah. Blade was a new character played by Anthony DeLongis. And
he did a lot of the stunt work, didn't he?
He was Langella's stunt double in the final action sequence, yeah.
Right, okay.
And the weird lizard helmet guy was also new, I think.
Right.
But Beastman was from the cartoon and the toys.
Yeah.
You have the 4 mercenaries there. 3 of them were new. I believe the characters were integrated into the wider universe post-movie.
Or even Gwildor.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I could barely look at him. Have you ever seen a film called A Gnome Named Norm?
No.
Also known as Upworld in the UK.
Never heard of it.
Or maybe I'll do like a series of pictures for this show and I'll post them on Instagram. Because honestly, Gwildor sort of looks like an Ewok fucked a gnome named Norm and then somebody put the baby in the microwave for a bit.
Okay.
Hideous. Absolutely disgusting.
That's just disdain for Gwildor.
Has
he hurt you? What's he done?
I don't know. Maybe there is some trauma connected to that.
Maybe.
Connected to that character.
You like the Garbage Pail Kids?
I would rather look at a Garbage Pail Kid.
No.
Like the worst ones. Genuinely.
I disagree. I couldn't disagree with you more. At least Gwildor's funny, and he's
not though.
I think he's funny.
I hate him.
I was going to share. Played iconically by Billy Barty, who gets second billing.
Well, that makes sense because he is kind of secondary main character. I mean,
well, Frank Langella is surely.
Well, he was a bigger name for sure.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah, I guess Skeletor.
I think, like, I am a big fan of Gwildor in this movie. I think he's he's MVP for me.
No.
But Frank Langella, there is no denying how I think he's brilliant in this. I think he captures the essence of Skeletor perfectly. And you can tell that he cares and he put work into this.
So you think Gwildor's the MVP over Frank Langella?
I think Gwildor's my favourite. Okay, but it's like kind of equal. I think Gwildor just makes me laugh more, but Langella's like when you're a kid, terrifying, and when you're an adult, like why is his dialogue strangely good, whereas He-Man's is very terrible?
Well, apparently Frank Langella wrote some of the lines himself for
Mm.
Skeletor. He was like super into this.
Yeah, I think his kid was very much into He-Man.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'm going to do this to make my child happy.
Yeah, I mean, they gave a shit about this movie. This is what I was saying earlier. Like, there's Shakespearean connection. Hang on, I've got this in my notes somewhere. So there's a line where he says, "I'm not in a giving mood this day," which is straight from Richard III.
Yeah.
Or Richard III, if you're a League of Gentlemen fan. And Meg Foster used Lady Macbeth as her inspiration for Evil Lynn. Like, there was a lot of thought that went into this.
That's a thought that occurred to me. It's very Shakespearean type language.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was directly influenced from that. Langella really cared. I think the only actor that director Gary Goddard, only directing credit, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did this like simultaneously give him a career and end it in one fell swoop?
I don't know. I think he got this job because he had directed a live version of Conan the Barbarian.
Right, okay.
Another Conan connection. I think like a Universal Studios. And that's what got him this job. I believe he went back to that. I'm sure I saw somewhere in his IMDb credits that he was directing like a Jurassic Park live show or something in the 90s. So I bet there's a bunch of stuff that he's done, but he just never returned to the feature,
right?
The feature side of things. But given the stress that he must have been under, and I've heard from the cast that he took a lot of that on his shoulders as well, and didn't necessarily want to burden other people with that.
Aww.
It must have really affected him. But yeah, Dolph Lundgren was the only actor that he inherited. Everyone else, he had a say in who to cast.
That he inherited.
Yeah.
He's still in his care to this day.
Yeah. So, but everyone else, he kind of had a hand in the casting process, and not least Frank Langella. He went out to bat for Langella. I believe the studio were kind of resistant because,
really?
Yeah, Langella, leading man at that time, he must have commanded quite a salary. I dare say he was probably the highest paid actor on this film.
I hope so.
I think he probably was. And I think because he would have been so relatively well paid compared to the other cast, the studio were like, well, he's behind a mask. Do we really need to pay for Frank Langella?
Oh, right.
But
okay.
apparently, and I can sort of see where they're coming from.
He was the last person cast, wasn't he?
Oh, was he? I didn't know
I believe
that.
so.
Okay. But I sort of see where they're coming from as a money person myself. However, I think the absolutely correct decision was for Goddard to dig his heels in and say, no, we need him. We need an actor of this skill and stature to be able to make Skeletor interesting and like kind of believable.
Yeah.
He's this weird Shakespearean over-the-top actor with a skull prosthetic on. But you do buy his character. He's for a kind of run-of-the-mill, I want to take over the world and the universe, and I want all of the power, and everyone shall submit to me, like a really generic two-dimensional villain character.
Yeah.
He does bring more depth to it.
Yeah, he's definitely got a certain gravitas.
Yeah, and particularly with some of the close-ups where his eyes are darting around. I think he just acts the shit out of this. I think he's fantastic. I don't think I fully appreciated that until this watch. I definitely found him terrifying when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I would have been
me.
four or five. But yeah, it's kind of a scary movie, I think, for a kid.
But that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, should it have been a PG?
It was definitely. They could have pushed it a bit more and made him maybe a 12.
Yeah.
I think. It was definitely a weird kind of area for it to be in. It's not quite a kid's movie. It's not quite an adult's movie. So that is probably a good point you made. Part of, who's this for? Who we marketing this to? Kids don't like it. Adults don't like it.
It's for 40-year-olds with nostalgia blinkers on, it turns out.
In 2025, going, what an underrated masterpiece this is. No one's saying that. I'm saying that, but you're not saying that.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I've already said up top, I really enjoy this movie. I also think it's kind of crap in a lot of ways.
It's just one of the most uneven movies I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. it sort of lags for a while as well. Like
Yeah.
a lot happens, but then there are scenes where it looks like a lot's happening, but nothing's really happening, if that makes sense.
Give me an example.
Well,
Where
all of the stuff in the flabby middle.
It's definitely, yeah, I would agree that once you get off Eternia and you come to Earth, it definitely starts to sag a bit there.
Yeah.
There are good moments.
Like, oh, look, Gwildor's eating barbecue ribs.
Yeah.
I can do without all of that stuff.
Why do they put this food on these sticks? So Tila doesn't know what bones are?
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, she's a woman, you know. Was that the implication there? Yeah, weird.
Well, she should know. Her place is in the kitchen.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think this movie is particularly misogynistic. Do you think so?
No, probably not.
I just think it's badly written.
I think,
Aside from Langella's dialogue, which he wrote himself.
Yeah.
I
Or
think
Shakespeare did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Big Billy.
I think He-Man is a total himbo. So I don't
This
necessarily...
is a new word. What does himbo mean?
Like a bimbo, but a male one.
Okay. That should have been obvious, yeah.
Yeah. The clue was in the name.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's not... Look, I like Dolph Lundgren, but maybe it's in the
Do you?
performance. I think he's cool.
Okay.
Like, when I was so shocked when I found out how smart he is. Doesn't he have like a doctorate or something?
Yeah, he's a certifiable genius, I believe.
Crazy. And I don't know, when I found that out like maybe 15 years ago, I sort of went down a rabbit hole because I was like, who is this fascinating man?
Yeah.
So I do think he's like, he does seem all right from the little I do know about him, but he's not a very good actor. Is what it boils down to.
Yeah, particularly in the early days, 100%. Like, he's not...
Even now.
I think
Come on.
Listen, he's not going to win an Oscar.
No.
But
he might win a Razzie.
I think he's way better now. Like, I mentioned Universal Soldier earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a movie where you need particularly strong, dramatic performances. But he's a very good villain in that. He's a very larger-than-life, colourful, interesting bad guy in that film. And between that 5, 6 years between Masters and Universal Soldier, there is a world of difference. If you watch them side by side, you're never mistaken Dolph Lundgren for anyone else because he's a very remarkable looking person.
Mm-hmm.
But his acting style definitely developed. Like I say, I'm not saying that he's going to win any Oscars for being a dramatic actor, but he definitely got better. That's what I'll say.
I find it interesting that I read somewhere that he said that this movie was his lowest point as an actor. So I can only assume that quote happened before Expendables 4 was made. And that he's changed his tune now.
Yeah. I'm guessing when this came out, huge flop, probably for a good 10 years, people ragged on this film. They hated it. But I don't know. From what I hear, when we posted our schedule on Patreon, Matt commented and said it's watchable.
It sure is.
But you see other people online and they do, there is love for this film.
One of my friends on Letterboxd gave it 5 stars.
Right. But that's what I mean.
So
I don't know if you saw this for the first time now, I don't know if you would be in that kind of camp. I don't know if I would. I think I would still really enjoy it.
Do you?
But I don't think it would. I mean, this is a 4-star movie for me. I think it's great. But I don't know if it would be that if I watched it for the first time now. It might be just like, it's really good in places, but really shit in other places. It's a 3-star movie or 2.5 or something. I don't know. It's definitely a nostalgia factor for me.
Yeah, I think personally, without that sheen of nostalgia, I would think this was Pony. And I think that's something that's going to be a recurring theme this season.
Yeah.
Even in some of my choices, like without that nostalgia, I think they're not necessarily great films.
Yeah.
Did they deserve to flop? Maybe. Who knows?
Some of them definitely did.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's not. In his defense, it probably would have been a miserable shoot, right? Like, his English still wasn't great. He's prancing around on set wearing a fucking, I don't know, some sort of metallic Y fronts. I don't know what's going on there.
The weird chest piece thing.
The harness. It's very leather daddy. Like, there's not a lot of dignity in this role.
There's definitely no dignity in this role, no.
So I kind of get it from his perspective, because they'd always planned on making a sequel, and apparently I read conflicting things in a couple different places, but I did read that he was approached during the making of this, like before this had even come out, and said, do you want to sign up for a second one? And he just went, no.
Right. Yeah, I can see where he's coming from. I mean, like you say, walking around primarily night shoots in pants and a cape and a sword, holding that sword must have been really hard work as well.
Yeah, and wasn't it like a 5-month shoot?
Yeah, something like that.
It was a long shoot. And like you said, I think at least a couple of those months were night shoots, which must have been freezing, just uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it was pretty hot at the time, but yeah, certainly at night it would have been pretty cold if you're just walking around wearing metal pants.
Like, if 2 months of my life, my circadian rhythm was fucked, I'd have been a living hell to be around. Yeah. In fairness, without the outfit choice, that aside.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the look of He-Man in this then? I know it must have been really uncomfortable for Dolph. I'm mates with Dolph. We go way back. Me and Big D, yeah.
Right.
What do you think of the look? Because there were a few drafts, a few stages of the development process where they came up with ideas and Mattel poo-pooed them, and they really wanted it to resemble the cartoon and the toys more. Right. And I think it's quite similar to the toys, but it's slightly different. And he doesn't have that
the bob.
The bob, yeah. He has a mullet.
He doesn't have that Karen haircut.
Yeah.
What do I think? I don't really know. I think it must have been humiliating for the poor guy.
Yeah. Well, certainly that. But what about the costumes in general?
Pretty uneven.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It's really hard to say. And again, it's sort of looking back with the benefit of hindsight and comparing it to more modern cinema. Like, we're used to sort of teams of, I guess the closest comparison would be superheroes these days. Yeah. And they tend to look like a cohesive unit, whereas none of these characters look like they have even met previously or were from the same sort of background, planet, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wildly inconsistent.
I would say that probably applies to this film in general, is wildly inconsistent. Like I said, one of the most uneven movies ever made. Yeah. I think I quite like the costumes in this film. You? I think aside from Robert Duncan's tie with his leather jacket and James Tolkien's big brown leather Mac thing that he's wearing, I think all of the Eternia stuff. Yeah, the cop guy who's from Back to the Future and Top Gun.
What's he?
The world's blinkiest actor. I think the costumes are actually quite good, and definitely going back to Skeletor again. I think his look is absolutely brilliant. I think they nailed that.
I'll agree with that. And Evil Lynn looks pretty cool as well. But then I'm sort of biased because I really like Mick Foster.
No, I mean, I liked Evil Lynn as well.
I'm sure you do. I have a bias because she's in, stuff like They Live, which I love.
Oh, is she? Of course,
all roads lead back to John Carpenter, don't they?
They really do, yeah. Particularly when you're talking about something from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Evil Lynn, big awakening for me when I was a child.
Those eyes, man.
Yeah, piercing eyes, but super uneven. Some of the costumes are good, some of the costumes are terrible on the human characters anyway, who I think are largely unnecessary anyway.
And totally forgettable.
Yeah.
Why do we care about her dead parents?
I couldn't tell you. And that's part of it that fucks me off in this movie as well. Is like, why are we doing this with the dead parents? Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that you go from Eternia at the start of the movie and you get that wonderful big throne room, like you say, across 2 studios, multiple levels, marble, big screens in the background, like rear projection, the Skeletor and Evil Lynn and their costumes. Then you go to Earth and it's a beige kitchen with some Burger King product placement.
It doesn't really compare.
No, it doesn't. And I think the same is with the dialogue. You get the great stuff with Langella and then the terrible stuff with Dolph's script that he had to say. dare say that some of it probably was performance, but his dialogue, it wasn't very good either. So, try and make that sound good. I don't know how you would do that. I think even if you go also look at some of the lighting in the film, they do quite a lot with practical lighting, particularly I think when the Evil Lyn arrives at Earth, when the mercenaries fail their first mission and then Evil Lyn comes. They do a bit with like neon lights, the blues and the reds, good and the evil, if you will. It's very subtle stuff going on.
Bisexual lighting.
So and a lot of that looks very good. They wanted to really enhance the movie in that way. And I watched the commentary with director Gary Goddard, and half the movie he was talking about the lighting. So it was bound to be a point that I was going to bring up. But you really notice it, like when Evil Lyn arrives and you've got the blues and the reds and the light bouncing off of the characters, and then you go back to that beige kitchen and it's just a horrible flat lighting situation. And possibly somewhat by design, because you're trying to convey the convergence of these two worlds, but it still looks shit,
Yeah, I can understand that from a thematic perspective, but it doesn't translate brilliantly in a visual way.
Yeah. And I kind of, as poorly done as some of it is, I don't think it's anyone's fault, really. It's the fact that they ran out of money and they were on a tight schedule. They were losing light, and they came up with practical solutions, like put in some practical light in so we can light up the scene. And then let's completely rewrite the final fight because they ran out of money and they couldn't shoot it.
Right.
They came up with a really good workaround. So I don't blame anyone. I think that it's remarkable that say what you like about this film. If you think it's terrible, that's absolutely fine. And I'm not going to fight you on that because it's probably objectively not great. But I think it's remarkable that it turned out as good as it did.
As coherent as it did, certainly.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. But yeah, just some of it just blows my mind with this, particularly the Skeletor stuff and the transport, the ships that they're on, going back to the Eternia stuff, matte paintings, which is something we spoke about in the last episode.
And will continue to come up this season.
I didn't think about matte paintings. I suppose it would have been inevitable in a movie from this era, but I didn't think about it in relation to this movie until the very first shot is a matte painting.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love it. It's
magical.
It is magical, and it fits with this as well, because it's that fantasy world based on a cartoon, and then you get the credits, and then you get the Conti score that kicks in. And I think the score is, that's another thing about this film. I think the score is absolutely brilliant.
The stuff that's not a direct rip-off of Star Wars, yeah.
It's like a hybrid of Star Wars and Superman.
I'll be honest, that's one of the things I dislike about this movie is some of the Star Wars stuff is particularly egregious. I think some of it because they thought that was a good way to make money. It would not surprise me if some of those decisions were Golan and Globus, because just from the limited amount I know about those two, or even that they maybe overpromised what could be achieved on the budget they had.
Oh, were they the Canon guys?
They ran Canon at that point. Israeli cousins, I believe.
Okay.
And they had a pretty successful run for a while. But
I feel like I want to watch a documentary about Canon films. One must exist somewhere.
There is one from about a decade ago.
I need to see it.
Yeah, me too. But some of the Star Wars rip-off stuff was kind of, it sounded like workarounds rather than intentional, because you've already mentioned like Mattel were pretty strict about the conditions that they had. One of which was about the violence. Obviously, you've already mentioned that, but they specified that He-Man was not allowed to kill anybody on screen. So that's why Skeletor's army were not stormtroopers, honestly. Not. But yeah, they were effectively robots, I guess?
Yeah, I think that was what they were meant to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were protecting their brand, like you say. They didn't want He-Man to kill or injure any living creatures.
Yeah, which I don't think is that uncommon, because I know Apple are like notorious for never letting bad characters in TV and film use one of their phones or products.
Which is potentially a real spoiler for movies.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. Specifically this season of The White Lotus.
I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I will now. Yeah, definitely. Like you say, that was a workaround to have He-Man not kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's a way you don't have to do it exactly the same as Star Wars, do you?
No.
They were black stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not stormtroopers. Why? They look like stormtroopers. No, they're black. And their heads are slightly bigger.
The helmet's like not quite the same shape.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think they look cool, but it's definitely derivative of Star Wars.
Yeah,
There's no denying that. And I think actually one of the taglines for this movie during its short marketing run
It's this year's Star Wars.
It's the Star Wars of the 80s, which blows my mind because there were Star Wars movies out in the 80s.
Yeah.
When was Jedi out? Like 83 or
It's a
something?
really bold choice to use that.
Yeah, it was.
Loud and wrong.
Yeah. But the score definitely is the main part of the sound and the score of this movie is somewhat derivative of Star Wars and Superman, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it.
The first half, certainly. It sort of seems to change a little bit around the halfway mark.
There's a lot of score in this.
Yeah.
And I think the score of this film is something that I think about all of the time.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is.
This is your Roman Empire.
What's he thinking about? The Bill Conti Master of the Universe 1987 score. Absolutely it is. It's something that I think about quite a lot. And I think Conti is one of the greats.
Mm.
He, obviously, Rocky is the big one that he's known for.
Yep.
Karate Kid, which is another one of my favourites. And also Masters of the Universe. But I think he worked very hard on this. And there's lots of cues and lots of different themes for everybody used throughout at different points to conjure up different feelings and to kind of move the story along and serve as context. And I think it really works. I don't think this movie is as successful to me without that score. I think the score is something that always enhances a picture, but in this case I think is particularly important. And was it a couple of months ago when I insisted, I procured a DVD copy of Bushwhacked
from
eBay, and you hadn't seen it.
No,
I
I hadn't.
And I was like, well, you have to watch this.
It was a gaping hole in my Daniel Stern knowledge.
Yeah. But there was a part in it where the score went duh, 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 and I went, that sounds like a cue from Masters of the Universe. I looked it up. Sure be it, Bill Conti did the score.
Of course.
And like, you're always the accent person. You can always pull out people's accents.
You're the score guy.
I'm the score guy. Even if I don't know what it is, I'm like, I've definitely heard that somewhere. But that particular one, that's one, that's one that is playing in my head once a week. And I guess because I watched it so much as a kid and it's just kind of in there. I mean, obviously I would have been going around with my hands in the air saying, I have the power. And then after that going, duh, duh, duh.
When you weren't pretending to be RoboCop, of course.
Yeah, turning my body before my head, yeah.
Which you definitely don't still do.
I definitely not. I don't do that. I have a question for you.
Okay.
How long is 0.61 chromons? Because that's how long it is until moonrise, about halfway through this film. So I'm just wondering what the kind of the timing is of this movie. How long is 0.61 chromons, do you think?
Assuming this is all in real time, about 32 minutes. I have no idea. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
A chromon. Yeah, we did briefly discuss that when the film was on.
Yeah, we did.
I love it when movies just invent their own measurements.
Yeah. They said a thing as well. They said a term, something parsec eon. And I Googled that, and that is actually a real thing. Like measuring the distance in terms of vast distances, like over 100 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was real. But maybe chromons is real. I don't know. Someone write in. Don't write in.
We could Google it.
We could. I did Google it.
I think a chromon is a type of donut.
What flavour donut is it?
Maple bacon.
Okay. Bacon flavoured donut.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Maple bacon. That goes.
Okay.
I would eat that if it was vegan bacon.
I was on Deliveroo the other day and I did see a donut burger.
Oh, no, that might be pushing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Did it have pickles on it?
I don't know. Maybe.
No. Veto.
Yeah, it sounded weird. It was a bit too weird for my kind of taste buds. I've got another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gwildor, MVP.
If you say so.
Genius inventor, locksmith.
Yeah.
Can't remember noises?
No.
There's the part in a film where the cosmic key, which I'll go back actually, another good thing about this is props, or that particular prop I think is iconic.
I think there were a few of them.
Yeah.
Because they kept breaking.
Right. There was a lot of moving parts, so that would make sense.
I had to have people on set to fix them every time they broke.
Yeah. So at some point, there are two cosmic keys. There's the one that Skeletor has, and there's the prototype that Gwildor has.
Yeah.
The one that Gwildor has gets damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, we can't get back home now because it's erased the tones. We're fucked. We can't go anywhere. And the tones determine what point in the universe you land in.
Mm-hmm.
And the tones are always wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
Like you go from Eternia to Earth, the tones are and if you want to go from Earth to Eternia, the tones are So are they the only tones that exist, and you have to think where you want to go? And why didn't you remember those tones? I think it's possible that I'm overthinking this.
Oh, for certain.
But there is also a line of dialogue where Gwildor says to Paris from Star Trek, you're a song maker.
Yeah.
Are you a master song maker? We have song makers on my planet. Well, how does that work then? Because if your race can't remember tones, how do you have fucking song makers?
It's all just jazz. It's all freestyle jazz.
No, it probably fucking is jazz, isn't it? On Gwildor's planet.
They never have to remember it because it's different every time.
Yeah.
Free form. Well, I've got a question also.
Go on.
They talk at length about not being able to track the keys, but then all of a sudden they can track the keys?
That's a very good point. The first half of this movie, Skeletor, Evil Lyn, the mercenaries, find the key. Where is the key?
Mm-hmm.
Courtney Cox, have you seen the key? No, it looks like this. Oh yeah, I have seen it. Paris, where is the key? I'm not telling you. I put this collar on. Oh, well, I can't say where it is, but the policeman took it from Top Gun. You might have seen Top Gun. It's the guy that blinks a lot.
It was pretty big.
Yeah, it was pretty big. Maybe they'll make a sequel one day. I don't know. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They put the collar on Paris. Where's the key? I don't know, but a policeman took it, and they go, we should be able to track it from the air.
Yeah. Why now?
So this whole thing was unnecessary. If you can track it from the air, why couldn't you just get to Earth and just track it from the air?
Why weren't you already doing that half an hour ago?
Yeah.
Or 0.61 chromons ago, sorry.
They spent way too many chromons trying to find this key by asking people when they should have just tracked it from the air.
I'm not made of chromons. Come on.
Chromons is money.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's our first merch drop.
I was going to say, if we did any merch, then that would absolutely be the first thing we did. Another thing that struck me as odd, right? There's another good, interesting prop, something that Evil Lyn has. There's that part at the middle of the movie when Meg Foster goes to Earth to try and right the mistakes of the mercenaries and try and track the key before they track it from the air. But she's got that really interesting bit of kit where she just holds that screen up and she can see the past. So, do you see where I'm going with this?
I do.
Why don't you just follow the key? Well, why don't you just follow those people? I don't know.
Julie's a fucking melt.
Julie's an idiot.
I hate Julie.
Her parents are dead, right? The reason that her parents are dead in this movie is so that she can think that her mum is alive all of a sudden.
Her mum, who's actually Chris Pine's mum.
In real life?
In real life.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, Lady Pine.
Yeah. Mrs.
Mama
Pine.
Pine, yeah. All right, I didn't. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, there's that weird scene, isn't there, where Evelyn is impersonating her dead mum.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, I'm really sorry we had to fake our deaths because we're spies," or something equal to that. And she's like, "All right then."
This is not Little Nikita. Like, what the fuck was that subplot about?
Weird.
She's an idiot.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. It was stupid. And that's one of the things that that's one of the things that this movie could have been great. It could have been genuinely great.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I love it, and it's very important to me, and I enjoy watching it still now, I'll still put this on all the time. You just things like that. You're like, why? Like, why couldn't we have been a bit smarter with the writing?
I think for me, that's part of the enjoyment, though. Like,
That's
50% of this movie, they clearly went to great pains to get right. And then the other 50% of the movie just felt like they were going, close enough.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Like the fucking Tesla spacecraft that's silent.
Yeah.
I love that bit.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's literally behind you. Pantomime moment.
Yeah. Ooh, it's behind you. Yeah. That was when Skeletor appears on Earth and he does his speech at I was going to say Superman, at He-Man. That was his first day of shooting Langella, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's just after the hoverboard sequence, isn't it? Which is definitely not riffing on Back to the Future, because this is a totally original concept.
Absolutely, yeah. 100%. Yeah, I do love Skeletor. I think that scene's great as well. I just feel like as a child, Skeletor was definitely a theatre kid.
Yeah.
He's so big.
Yeah. I wonder if I mean, I don't know who else could have played this Skeletor role at that time. But I couldn't think of anyone that could have done it better back then. We've already spoken about Langella and his kind of enthusiasm for the role. I think, interestingly, we spoke about Dolph Lundgren's lack of clothing and his exposed body in this. From what I heard, Langella actually wanted more skin on show, because apparently he was quite buff at the time, and was like, oh, and you go back and you look at the cartoon, Skeletor is like a skin tight suit on, and he's quite jacked as well
for a skeleton.
Yeah,
come on, doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. But apparently that's what Langella wanted. Apparently, and he was kind of a bit disappointed when he got a more sort of gown situation. But I think the final look ended up brilliant. I think the look of him is really great and scary for a child.
Yeah, the only thing that bothers me, so his face is a skeleton, and you can sort of see the indentations where the teeth would be that go into his cheek, but he's also got teeth in his mouth.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Explain it to me.
I mean, I didn't notice that. That's not something I was looking at. Well, not until you pointed it out anyway, so thank you for ruining one of my favourite movies.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's not something I saw, but yeah, but again, just going back to how, on the one hand, brilliantly made it is, and on the other hand, how unusual it is and not terribly great in some places. And I think a good example of that is the final fight. I enjoy the final fight. I do. I think it's for me built up enough goodwill, and I think it's good enough. I think now that I know the story behind it, I can see how kind of tacked on it feels.
Does it change your opinion knowing that it wasn't actually Langella?
No.
Okay.
It does it change yours?
A little bit, maybe.
I don't know. I just kind of assume that whenever there's an A-list actor in a role and there's a fight scene, it's not usually them. Even if they say it is, it's probably not, unless it's Keanu Reeves. And obviously, we touched on it earlier, but at that point, when it came to shooting the final battle sequence, their aim was to do one of the greatest sword showdowns of all time across multiple levels, across this really interesting set, this throne room. And because they ran out of money, they just didn't have the time to do that. They literally said to Goddard, "You've got one day.
Oh my God.
You've got one day to shoot as much as you can." And he shot as much as he could. And then I think he managed to convince some people to come back a few months later to shoot more of the fight.
Okay.
Anthony DeLongis stepped in for Frank Langella, I guess Langella was probably on another project by that point, and they managed to shoot what ended up being the final sequence. Now, a really genius workaround that Goddard came up with is when they clashed Skeletor's staff with He-Man's sword, the power went out.
Right.
And then that's how they got around I'm guessing by that point, maybe they weren't on that big set anymore.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So they had to shut the lights off. They filled the room with smoke and then put some red lights on.
Right.
And then it's just close-ups of Dolph Lundgren swinging his sword around.
I've got another question. He-Man's famous for his sword, not a euphemism. But he uses a gun.
He does. He does love a laser.
Why has he got a gun in this? And also, what are the guns powered by?
Lasers. They're laser guns. What are any laser guns powered by? Is this the first time you're questioning laser guns?
Do they have to plug them in and recharge them every now and again?
I expect so, yeah.
Plugged in at the point next to Langella's spaceship.
Gary, you got a USB? My laser's run out. I've got 5%. I feel I've got about 0.31 chromons left on it.
That's not what a chromon is, Dan.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the workaround that they came up with, I think, works well enough. I now, as an adult, I can see the joins in it, but I still think it's quite good. I think Goddard, the director, was very creative with the workaround and what he was given. I think he did his absolute best. And I quite like it. I still like that end sequence. I still find it entertaining enough. I think there's been enough action at that point.
Yeah,
I don't really want it to go on much longer. I think the wrap-up scenes I could do without.
I was going to say, how do you feel about like the silly Julie happy ending wearing, I don't know, like a 60-year-old woman's nightgown?
Yeah. No, I hate it. But I hate those characters in general, the Kevin and the Julie characters.
They're just a bit dull.
They're just nothing, and they're completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
But
he's
feel
a
like
song maker. He served a purpose.
Yeah, he was in that van, remember? He was playing that Living in a Box tune. two real songs in this, by the way.
Yeah.
Living in a Box.
And
Purple Haze?
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
We can't afford to shoot a final action sequence, but we bought the rights to Purple Haze for some reason.
There was some imaginative accounting done on this movie.
It's nuts. It's so, but that's just going back to it's so uneven. Like I don't know what you pay for Purple Haze in 1987, but it can't have been cheap.
No.
It's just a weird choice.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
So at this point, I had kind of planned to ask you, who would you cast in a reboot?
Ooh, okay.
But there is going to be a reboot.
Yes, next year, 2026, it's slated for release.
How do you feel about that?
I am pretty... Well, am I excited? I think on the basis of this movie, I'm kind of excited, having expressed my love for it. But in all reality, it's probably going to be a bland CGI fest, generic piece of shit.
Potentially. I think, it does sort of depend on what tone they're going to shoot for.
Yeah, I think it has the potential to be good, and like all things do. But my cynical brain is, I don't want the CGI. One of the things that I love about this is the practical solutions they came up for the costumes and the props and the designs. And okay, we can't have Battle Cat in this, but we can get a weird little Gwildor creature in it who looks great.
I would rather have had Battle Cat.
They had a cow in the forest, remember?
That's true.
For some reason, they had a cow in a forest next to a fast food restaurant.
Don't question it. Just don't question it.
Yeah.
Do you think the right wingers are going to boycott this movie?
Why?
On account of He-Man's name being a pronoun and his gender.
I never use pronouns. I think let's not get started on the politics because we'll be here all night. But it is interesting. What do they call He-Man then? What did they call She-Ra? What do they call
just gestures vaguely?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think there's potential in a reboot, definitely. But I would very much like them to go in a sort of camp comedy direction. I think that's what this property needs. If they go too po-faced, it's going to suck. Calling it now.
I think they're going to go for the superhero kind of situation, aren't they? Where there's big action set pieces with some quips. It's going to be... I would love it to be more than that and have more character. And it could be great. I don't know. I'm pretty encouraged by the cast. I think the cast is... The cast looks pretty good.
Who's He-Man?
I don't know the
Don't
actor.
say Glenn Powell. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, it's an actor that I'm not familiar with, but he's called Nicholas Galitzine.
Oh, I think he's English.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I don't see that. No, I don't care for that.
Okay. Well,
unless he doubles in size between now and then.
Definitely not with steroids. Definitely not. He's just going to eat loads of chicken.
Yeah, he's going to eat clean and hire Chris Hemsworth's personal trainer.
Yeah, who's also not on steroids.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But looking at the other cast members, Morena Baccarin as Sorceress.
Yeah, I like that.
Alison Brie as Evil Lynn. I think that's brilliant casting.
Yeah, I like Alison Brie. I'm struggling to see that, if I'm honest, but I do like her. I have faith.
Okay. Idris Elba, Man at Arms.
Oh, I like that.
Me too. I think that's the first one that I heard actually and was like, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like, that gruff, weathered, seen some action, really has the presence and the gravitas to be like a really strong supporting character.
Yeah, doesn't look like
great.
He's wandered off the set of Dad's Army.
Yeah.
Odd choice.
Yeah, always follow your nose.
Yeah.
Do you know who's playing Skeletor?
No. Oh, no, I do. Oh, no. No, it's Jared Leto, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, my hope for this film is just dimmed.
That's the one thing that disappoints me. What? The first point being, why are we casting Jared Leto in stuff? Even though the movies that he's in are mostly fucking flops? When's the last time you made a movie that's done well? Morbius, which shat the bed.
Mm-hmm.
The I don't know. I can't fucking name another Jared.
The others that were clearly really memorable.
Yeah, but he seems like he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy his acting. Is he good in anything?
He can be. He can be, but like
Panic Room, I quite liked him in.
But
20 years
he
ago.
hasn't been Panic Room Jared Leto for 20 years.
No.
Now he's House of Gucci Jared Leto.
That's the movie I was trying to think of.
We're done. I'm done.
But we're still casting him. We're putting him in Tron 3.
No, close the door on that man.
I know. The only thing that I can think of is because he's in that band, isn't he? He has a band.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that they have a lot of fans and a big online following.
Yeah,
I can
sadly.
only imagine that that's why he keeps getting cast in things. Even though he started a cult and he didn't know that COVID was happening for all that time, he's still getting cast in. I don't get it. On the plus side, he'll be behind a bunch of makeup in this. So there is that.
Yeah, but like when I think of Jared Leto as a villain, I think of Suicide Squad.
Oh.
And how much he stunk up that movie. I mean, it was a bad movie anyway.
It's a terrible movie, and he was the worst part of it.
Yeah, which is saying something.
Yeah.
So yikes.
Who do we swap Leto out for in the reboot? Let's not go through the whole cast, but who could we speculate on for Skeletor in this?
Glenn Powell.
Yeah. Bring back Lundgren. Make him Skeletor. Oh, I don't know. Who's like a lean actor that could... Oh, for some reason, my mind went to McConaughey.
I don't love it.
I'm shooting
because he
from the hip
annoys
here.
me.
All right. What about Robert Pattinson?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. He's fun. He's fun as hell. He would have so much fun with that role.
I've found out the answer.
Go on.
It's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, all right. You win.
He's good at playing skeletons.
Yeah. Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Unless you've got a better answer, I think that's
there isn't
the
a better answer.
No, I agree. But I'd cast him in anything. What else is there left to say about this magnificent movie that we haven't said already?
Don't say goodbye, say good journey.
Good journey. Say good journey and do a hand gesture but you can make up the hand gesture.
Yeah, it can change.
Sometimes they like wave their hand across their forehead. Sometimes they just hold their palm out. I mean, sometimes they fist bump and say good journey.
Yep.
Sometimes they got a finger up the arse and they say good journey. Doesn't matter. You just do whatever you want.
You can just change it on a whim.
That's the beauty of it. We're
Yeah.
Etonians. We're pretty flexible, man.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we like, and
Yeah.
we're not going to judge you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Good journey.
But get consent first.
Always get consent. I think He-Man would be a big get consent person.
I reckon so, yeah.
He's a very
Is he woke?
wholesome character, and I would like to think he's quite woke.
Yeah.
I was really excited to watch this film. I was dead excited to receive that lovely 88 films copy that we got. I will continue to watch this very often. I'm thrilled that we've gotten to speak about it. I'm assuming that you've never covered it before.
No.
Because it's not obviously it's not a horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
Despite it having some horrific elements.
Not in the traditional sense.
Did you ever envisage yourself having a discussion about Masters of the Universe?
No, probably not. But I'm really glad we did.
Me too. I was desperate to cover this at some point. I think it was always something I was going to get to. This felt like the right place in Flops.
Yeah.
We've spoken about it being a massive disappointment in the box office, and we've speculated on some of the reasons that may have been.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what other theme I could have gotten this into, really. Dolph Lundgren, if we could do a Dolph Lundgren.
I'm not doing an entire season of Dolph Lundgren movies.
We could do The Punisher.
No way.
Universal Soldier, and he's probably done other movies.
If you say The Punisher, there's probably about 3 movies that people think of before the Dolph Lundgren one.
Including Warzone.
Yes.
Which is underrated.
Was it Ray Stevenson?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Great movie, that is.
It is, yeah. Directed by a woman.
Yeah.
I think this movie's toilet. But I genuinely love it a lot, and I think it's a really, really fun time. And I hope Gwildor burns in hell.
Oh, you're so harsh on my guy.
Look,
my guy.
Billy Barty, innocent, completely innocent. Gwildor, horrific.
73 in this movie, by the way.
Look.
And they're shoving him in the river, head first in a river.
Yeah, he was a good sport.
Yeah.
But whoever created that mask to jail, 10,000 years dungeon.
So I'm thinking of Halloween.
No way.
Costumes.
No. If you're Gwildor, I'll be He-Man.
Evil Lyn and Skeletor?
Which one's which, though?
I'll be Evil Lyn. Let's swap it up.
Okay. And I'll have 2 sets of teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And start shouting Shakespearean lines at me.
However, we're moving on.
Yeah, sadly, our discussion of Masters of the Universe must come to an end at some point. And we're moving on to episode 3 of Flops next week.
Mm-hmm. Back to my choice.
Back to you. So please tell us what we're going to be talking about next week.
All I'll say is, damn the man, save the Empire.
Oh, no. Go on, what is it?
It's Empire Records.
Yeah, of course.
Join us for Rex Manning Day.